Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Tony Sirianni podcast. I am thrilled to have the three founders of Pallas Capital with us today. It's my good friend, Greg Boyle, Charlie Evangelakos. Is that right, Charlie? It's good.
Yes,
Good. And Rich Mullen. Welcome, guys. Appreciate you being here. I'm excited to have you. You guys, and I know that you guys have had tremendous success, growing your firm. And, our audience would love to hear about what it is you guys are doing. Let's get into a little bit how billion-dollar teams and growing businesses function. I'd love to hear about what you guys are doing for organic growth and how that's sort of driving a lot of what you do. So let's start. When we did our survey of the 1,000 advisors to watch, which you guys are perennially, in, right? So the top advisors in the country, one of the biggest attributes that successful advisors share are teams, right? They're all parts of the teams, almost all of them. And different types of teams, different models and all that kind of thing. But it's also a source of some of the most challenges that advisors have. If you don't have a good team or you struggle with issues on your team, you can have real problems. So let's start with you, Greg. Teams. What are you guys doing? How do you view that as part of your plan for organic growth?
Yeah, well, thanks for having us. Good to speak with you again. And I think when we think about teams, we think about our value proposition. When a team comes to Pallas Capital, or we have a partner, we call them partners, join Pallas Capital, there's a fundamental question that we ask, which is, do you want to grow your book of business? And that seems kind of funny because you think every advisor wants to do that. But the reality of it is, if you look at kind of the demographic of advisors, the age 59 and a half, you really have to sift through that particular question. But having said that, the one common thread between all the teams and all the advisors and partners that have joined Pallas is that they have a bent towards growth. They all want to grow their business. So our value proposition to them is, if you want to grow your book and you want to play in the ultra high net worth space, the team that we've fundamentally structured in terms of the resources can help you get there. And so what do I mean by that? So if you think about all of the things that a financial advisor has to do every single day, there's not enough time in the day to do it, but it's marketing, it's investment management, it's operations, it's administration. And so what we've done is professionalize that. We've hired a unbelievable team of resources to help the advisors with all of the daily task of running the business, but also getting out there and marketing themselves. So we have somebody helping the teams with marketing. We have a person focused on helping them with leveraging AI for business development. We have
I want to get into AI too later. I want to hear what you guys are doing, but that's a later question. Hey,
yep, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, Rich, that's one of the pillars of the firm, you would say. I mean, a lot of guys don't. The growth thing is interesting to me because we differentiate our advisors to watch lists because we give growth an equal component to assets and production versus that's why all the other lists are the same, right? Ours is more dynamic because we count growth. In other words, advisors that are doing the damn job. There are a lot of guys who don't. There are a lot of people sitting on assets from 1987 that they haven't done much with it, but they've grown, with the markets and stuff like that. So I guess my question to you, Rich, is was that a cornerstone when you founded the firm? You said, "Hey, we want to work with guys who are like us. We want to grow." I mean, was that how you started it, or did you have a different something in mind?
Yeah, thanks again for having us, Tony. I think just kind of feeding off of what Greg said, from our standpoint, we had a great reputation in the business from the wirehouse world. And what we built here was a platform to service ultra high net worth people, and I think that really appealed to folks that were looking to leave the wirehouse and join a firm that could help them grow. But I think in every instance, to Greg's point, even if you're a high net worth investor, invariably you have a handful of ultra high net worth leads that you've been trying to penetrate or close or what have you, and for whatever reason, lack of resources or confidence around the firm, you've been unable to do that. In every instance, when these folks join us, because of that strong pillar that as you refer to it, of planning and the resources around it, they've been able to close those opportunities. So that's really been I think kind of the calling card, if you will. I used to say a while ago, if you go to a person worth $100-200 million and you go, hey, if I could lower your standard deviation 2% and increase your return 1%, do you want to have a cup of coffee? And then invariably the answer is no. If I could save you $50 million in taxes by virtue of lending you some of the experiences that we've had working with the highest net worth families in the country, and in some instances saving them, tens of millions, would you like to sit down and talk about our planning capabilities and how we can get creative in trying to craft a solution that'll save you and your family money for generations?
Well, I remember, Charlie, I heard a story about a Pallas client. A lot of the work that you do for folks for these, I mean, look, it's big game hunting, the hundreds of millions of dollars, in clients, but you guys do a lot of work for those people ahead of time. You're not charging anything. You're just trying to show them capabilities, right? In terms of bringing them in.
Well, we have skin in the game, right? We're really confident that we can bring some real value to these clients. And so we'll tell clients we work on a contingency. If we can derive value and bring you some insight that you haven't seen out in the marketplace, will you work with us? And as long as they make that commitment, we will take that risk. And, and our hit ratio is pretty high compared to, so I think that's one thing. But just going back to sort of Rich's and Greg's comment, the firm was built because I was at Lincoln Financial SageMark Consulting prior to that. And Rich and I actually go back into the 1990s and worked at Proof Securities together for a couple of years. So even though it's a new firm, we've been working together for 20 plus years. We worked with the same clients and so forth. So we all got together and wanted to build a client-centric firm. It's really built around the client. What can we build? Let's get a blank canvas and build a firm that we can service our ultra high net worth clients. And that was the whole premise behind the firm. And that's how the whole thing kind of just started.
When you think of teams, because I want to stick with the team piece there. I mean, there's a lot of ways to structure a team. You could be horizontal, you could be vertical, right? There's a lot of moves you could take. How have you structured the firm's team? Is it flat, or is it? I mean, it sounds like you have a lot of pieces of processes in place, but the actual team for the firm, how'd you structure that? And then what do you encourage your advisors to do?
Who wants to take that one?
Go ahead.
So
Okay,
I think
Charlie, again.
Well, I'll just start and then maybe, Greg and Rich can chime in, but there's different elements of the delivery of financial estate planning. And it comes down to, we think the core of it is really financial estate planning, tax planning.
Right.
That's the core to everything, right? And every client, 100% of the clients that come through this firm go through a full process, financial planning process. So we know everything about the client, their family, their net worth, their cash flow, their goals, objectives, and so forth. So we go through that process. So that's the core of what we do as a firm. And then we build around that, right? There's asset management, there's marketing, as Greg alluded to. There's a service model. We're a service model, right? So we have built to the highest degree every element of the process or experience a client will have here at the firm. And we have teams and we all work together, just like a team. The client comes in, he sits down at the table, and we have a team around him with all these, with a lot of levels of expertise around it. So
if I'm a big advisor, Greg, I can leverage your team. I don't have to add an estate planning attorney or anything like that. That's kind of the beauty, right?
Yeah, you use the word your team, and that's actually what we try to eliminate, because that's exactly how we felt when we were in the big wirehouses. There were all of these different silos in order to access resource, and there was a scarcity of resource. So what we've fundamentally done is that when a client comes in, the same faces, the same technical professionals will be sitting at the table with, if it's in our New Jersey office, if it's on our New Hampshire or Rhode Island office, we have a collective team that supports the advisor, but also supports the client. So there's uniformity, there's consistency, so that the clients really understand and recognize that there are resources behind them to deliver the best value, as well as the best services and recommendations.
Yeah. Rich, the other important thing about teams from an advisor's point of view is succession. So what are you guys doing around that, or what have you built around that?
Yeah, I'll tell you, not a day goes by that we don't talk about Gen 2, the second generation. We're very aware of it. Not only, do clients look at us, prospects, when we're sitting around a table, but, the industry as a whole is really kind of wrapped arms around this concept. So they want to know that the firm will live beyond us, right? So
They're
we
trying to
ask them-
manage their wealth in perpetuity. They'd like to see
That's right.
that you're going to be there.
And it's really part of our solution and the discussion. When we talk about planning, we talk about generational planning. So, the firm has to have a generational mindset. And so we've hired some really nice, really talented young folks here at the firm, and we continue to look to build out that second gen advisor. We've got a little bit of a structure where there's a mentorship and a program where they come along and play an active role in servicing our existing clients, and then even take a little bit more responsibility on the newer clients. So we're very, very focused on the second gen.
Yeah, well, it's in my mind, it's one of the things that we're really failing at as an industry. And look, when we all started in this business, Merrill Lynch trained Wall Street. They had this great training program, and they're not doing it anymore. The big firms are not training advisors. It's hard, and what they're training are not entrepreneurs. Where there is training, it's training to sort of punch a list or punch a clock and come in. They're not really training to the way we started with learning sales and then learning different parts of the business that you want. So I think it's a real challenge for the industry, and having a career path for young advisors is critical. Greg, you want to say?
I would agree with that. You have an average age of an advisor at 59 and a half, and you've got a high probability of a young person entering into the business, a failure rate of over 98% in the older models, or the kind of the wirehouse model. And so we've actually spent a lot of time focused on that and trying to address it. What do I mean? When we hire a Gen 2 to join the firm, it's really a 5-year glide path to learn the fundamentals of the business and to really understand both the investment strategy, the thesis, philosophy, planning, strategy, thesis, philosophy, and then really client service. So those Gen 2 advisors that join us, we manage that high probability of risk or of failure by giving them 5 years of just learning the business deeply, and both technical and just from a cultural standpoint. And it's worked quite well.
And I remember we had 3 months. Remember, Charlie? We started, you say
Right.
the test, and you're fired if you fail, and that's
Well,
pretty much
Tony, let me kind of add to that as well. I mean, I'm the perfect example of that, right? When I was at a previous position at Lincoln, I was chief cook and bottle washer, right? Everything went through my desk, every decision. I didn't want to give up control. I had staff, but that's the way it was. I've completely changed that now. Now to me, it's more like I want to bring a young advisor in. I want the advisor to have the point of contact with the client. I want them to make decisions. So it's a very different feeling. I want to be more relevant, as Rich says, right? Let other people handle it. So that's kind of the goal. And then the training. There's no more. You go to Morgan Stanley now, UBS. There's nobody.
There's no training. No, there's no training.
No training.
And the mentorship on the RIA side, we got to be honest, is spotty. So at best. And guys will, they don't want to part with the money to bring in a new person, or lose. It's a bad cycle. It's short-sighted, but that's a lot. There's a lot of guys stuck in practices that are lifestyle practices. They're not growing. It's a different mindset. And I'm assuming you guys have to sort that out from the beginning, who wants to grow, as you said, and who wants to work, who wants to do the job. I've often said that the best job you can have is to fail out of the Merrill Lynch training program, because then you're trained, you have your licenses, you've got a few clients, a little bit, and you could hook up with a great RIA and really learn how to do the work now, So, but that training program is gone. There are some firms that are Equitable's trained. There are firms that still train on a high level. Insurance firms still do a lot of training, but for our purposes, I think you guys are in a unique spot with the training. I actually applaud you for doing that. So young people, obviously it helps with next gen clients too, because I hear that all over the place. That not only is it hard to hire next gen advisors, it's very difficult to find them and train and hire them. You guys obviously train them, but it's really difficult to get the client's children interested in what's going on. They kind of sometimes don't want their dad's or their mom's advisor. Are you finding that? I'll take that.
Let me just make one quick comment on that. We just talked about that literally a few days ago, and always talk about it. We have clients now, we're actually servicing a third generation. the client, the kids, and now the grandkids. Grandkids that are 20 years old don't want to look at Rich and I and Greg, either advisors, like, so we're trying to match up the grandchildren of the next gen with younger advisors here. It's a perfect fit.
Yeah.
Now you surround yourself around the entire family, including all the grandkids. And this who really likes that is our clients, our older clients love that.
Couple things
Advisors
that
aren't, they're not doing that. Advisors aren't doing that, Greg. I mean, I don't see that. They talk about it, but they're just, it's easier to just let it go and think everyone's going to live forever.
Couple things that we're doing, Tony, is from a marketing perspective, is that we've built a studio inside of Pallas Capital, because we recognize that people consume content much differently. It's, you get static documents or white papers, and the probability of people going through it and reading it is low. But with this kind of new generation with, podcasts and webcasts and so on and so forth, people actually will eat that or consume that content completely differently. And so building a cadre of different podcasts and webcasts around children and legacy, and just having a framework to deliver that content so that our clients' children and grandchildren can consume the most fundamental or basic things that they need to understand about wealth and families is really something that we've been actively doing. So we're creating that content so we can deliver it to our clients.
So Rich, that means you got to embrace AI, which is still it has a ton of potential. One of the things with AI, I have a lot of advisors come to me, oh, it's not going to matter to me. I'm a handshake business. My clients don't. I'm like, okay. If you think AI is not going to impact your business, you couldn't be more wrong. You're going to be the last guy selling buggy whips on the highway, right? But if you embrace it, you have a real opportunity to move forward. And you had mentioned, Rich, you come from the wirehouse, side of things. One of the things they always tell you with the wires, don't go independent, because, you're going to have a diminution in products and services. You're going to have a diminution in technology. They don't have it. How have you guys embraced it? Because it seems like you're embracing the younger generation. You got to have the tech to match it, right?
Yeah. So this is a real focus of mine in particular. We recently have brought on a service that reads trusted estate docs, through optical recognition,
Awesome.
and then summarizes them and so on. So we're looking out at the landscape of technology and looking for ways to create some efficiency. And to your point, if you don't wrap your arms around it, you're going to get run over by it.
Yeah.
And, my only hope is that, it progresses slow enough that, next year when we have this conversation, we're not androids or, robots or whatever.
I tell you, there's a couple of things. I don't think that's going to happen, but I think that, because I think
Holograms, that's what it was.
Regulation will be there to sort of slow it down. And I also think that, this is a side point, it's going to drive investment in AI and alternative investments, because, AI is going to be able to look back and say, oh, these are the best ETFs, right? But they're not going to be able to look in private markets. That's a side point. By the way, we're getting kind of close to, time here. So a couple of things I wanted to talk about. One was inorganic growth, which you guys are doing. Do you want other advisors into this happy little family of yours? Who you're looking for? How does that work? And well, let's talk about that inorganic growth, because we talked about the organic. But so Greg, that's really you. Charlie, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Rich. You want to take that one, and then we can all jump in.
Yeah. So the inorganic growth, we actually called a little bit of a timeout on recently, just because, we were a victim of our own success. So the one thing we don't want to do is stretch our resources and not, overpromise and underdeliver. So we've been kind of right-sizing our value set here so that we are set up for bringing on additional advisors. But I think the mindset here is that, and we touched upon this the earlier part of this conversation, is that these advisors have to kind of look a lot like us, right? They have to be growth minded, as Greg pointed out. And in our opinion, we're not looking for mass affluent advisors, right? We're looking for folks, because I think a lot of that market segment, Tony, can be really commoditized, right? And I think AI is probably going to play a big part in that. So, it's the ultra high net worth where, everybody's got some complexities that really can't be solved by a CPU or a computer or whatever, and really needs some level of sophistication and creativity that I don't think can be delivered other than through somebody with 35 years experience in trust and estate planning, like Charlie and James Landry on our team. So, the teams that we're looking for right now we're looking for teams that want to go up market and want to leverage this value proposition to service and close, and bring value to ultra high net worth.
You're not doing anybody a favor by bringing them onto a platform they're going to be uncomfortable or not being able to use what it is. If you find a guy, you're a great guy, the $10 million producer, he does nothing but high yield munis, he's not going to be happy there. He needs to go to Hilltop where they do more unis than anybody in the world, right? You have to make sure you find people that are a good fit.
Yeah.
Look, we're out of time. So that was that was, I think, a relative high note to sort of end it on. I'll give you a chance if you want to say anything other than about me, that you want to say last minute, we might not have. Yeah, don't say anything about my hair, lack of hair, anything like that. Anybody have any last comments or thoughts?
I'll just say one quick statement. One of the things that has been very difficult for us to come to grips with or realize, but we can say now with all confidence and conviction, we are amongst the best planning firms in this country. And we really pride ourselves on that. We really want to invest in that. And we really want to use that as a catalyst for growth. So bringing those types of resources to impart tremendous value for clients is just it's paramount to us.
Yeah, Tony, if I could just add one more thing is I think when you look at us, the one word I would say is we're not complacent. We're always striving to get better and better. We're willing to make the investment, and the decision-making process is right here on this call, right? Yeah. And it could be made right now. We want a new piece of technology to bolt on. We just buy it. We just put it. So we never stop. So we're constantly always trying to improve, our operation.
Fantastic.
Tony, thank you so much. My imparting words are: we appreciate you. We appreciate AdvisorHub and all the things that you bring out in terms of the information, and really value our relationship with you. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
Tony.
You're welcome, guys. This is a lot of fun. We'll do it again. Continued success.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it.